Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name is Timster. Today I'm going to be going over part 6 in the Project AI tutorial series. So in the last part we went ahead and we set up a timer and a whole new state, which will play some animations. So if you haven't already, be sure to check out that part so you'll be up to date. But apart from that, we'll get straight on into this tutorial. So as mentioned in the last tutorial, we set up a whole timer system, and right now if we just press play, we'll have our normal animations playing and then a run to the cover points. But round about now you might start getting some glitches, as you can see here, where he just freezes up and doesn't do anything. Now you can eventually fix this by changing the priorities on the animations. However, if you have as many as I do, this can get really tedious, and since there is no real way or order that these work in, then yeah, it can sort of get really broken really fast. So in this tutorial we're actually going to sort of redo this. So instead of doing it like I did in the original game, we're going to do an improved version that instead of a timer we will be using actuators here to see if the animation is finished. Then what we're going to do is add ourselves lots and lots of actuators. So first of all, this shoot actuator is for our shoot animation, which is all the way down here. Now you'll notice the shoot animation is 30 frames long, and what that basically means is, if we select our enemy rig here and we go over to our dope sheet and then we play, you'll notice he shoots about 3 or 4 times during that time period. So we only actually want him to shoot maybe once or twice. Frame 0 to frame 4 is one shot, so let's go ahead and change that frame 0 to frame 4. Priority here we can just set back to 0. Okay, let's turn on continue as well. So for all of the animations here, let's just turn on continue and priority to 0. And just do that for all of those. So reload as well, priority to 0. So now what we're going to do is we have our shoot actuator. Let's add an enemy aim actuator. So enemy aim, there we go. And in here, this one is going to be the next one, which is crouch idle. So let's just call it that. Crouch idle. And then crouch idle if it's in here. Alright, so now what we also want to do is have them all inverted. So select invert, sensors of actuators. There we go, and then what we want to do is join them all in like so. Now also make sure you're doing all of this while you have selected the rig, because this has all the animations on it. So now we'll select our enemy AI cube. So now what we also want to do is this here, we want to sort of get rid of, and we won't need this timer anymore. So let's get rid of that, and rename that something, delete it. Then this timer function here, we can just sort of get rid of as well. Alright, and in here, we can get rid of that as well. Alright, cool. So I think that should be most of it done. So now what we can do is perhaps turn that down to maybe around 8. And then we'll go back into our Python scripting and change up a few things. So the first thing we want to do is import in all our actuators. So let's put a pound symbol and do actuator sensors. And then in here, what we'll do is go ahead and import in our actuators. So we already have shoot, which I think is over here. So let's cut and paste that up here. And then here, let's put normal actuators. Alright, so we have our shoot actuator. We need our enemy aim. Let's just call it aim actuator is equal to cont.sensors enemy aim. Then the next line, crouch idle, so let's just call it crouch actuator is equal to cont.sensors, and in here, crouch idle, idle, What we want to do is scroll down. So in here, what we want to change is if timer is equal to 0 and duck actuator or duck act is dot positive. So basically, when our player runs to cover, he'll duck down or play the ducking down animation. And so what we want to do is make sure that that has finished, so it doesn't sort of collide with anything else. So in here, what we want to do is keep this, but go down a line, press enter, and then in here, own timer is equal to 1. So we'll assign timer to 1, only 1 equals though. And also we'll activate the idle animation. So in the next one, else if timer is equal to 1, and so the crouch actuator here, crouch idle, we want to check. So timer is equal to 1 and crouch, actuator is positive. Okay, cool. So now let's go down here. Else if timer is equal to 2. Now what we also want to do is add 1 to the timer. So in here, own timer is equal to 2. And then again, down here, if timer is equal to 2, and now we want get up actuator. So and get up actuator dot positive. Do all that, and then own timer is equal to 3. Now what we want to do for the next part here, you'll notice we have a range for the timer in which sort of AI can shoot. So what we want to do is, instead of relying on a timer to determine this, let's actually use our ammo property that we added in. So what I'm going to do is over here, when timer is equal to, we need to assign it to 3. So when timer is equal to 3, and random boolean dot positive, own.ammo, and all of that. Now we don't need this last part, so let's press delete. Now what we also want to do is do another else if. So press delete to at the end. Else if timer is equal to 3 and own ammo is equal to 0. And on top of that, and shoot actuator dot positive. So it's finished playing the animation. Then what we want to do is press enter, go to the next line. Now in the bottom line here, or this new one we've added, what we want to do is add 1 to the timer again. So own timer is equal to 4. Let's go ahead and put cont.deactivate shoot. Now on this next part here, what we want to do is scroll down, press enter when timer is, wrong part. When timer is equal to 4 and shoot actuator dot positive. Now really we can sort of just combine these, so let's go ahead, select that, Control X to cut, and let's just put it in here. Deactivate shoot we already have at the start, so the rest of it we can just delete. And then we can use timer as 4 for the next state. So again, if timer is equal to 4, and then in here we want the duck animation to finish playing again. So let's copy and paste this and put it in there. Make sure you have a colon at the end, like so, and get rid of the if. There we go. So else if timer is equal to 4 and duck actuator positive, then what we want to do is play the reload animation. So deactivate duck, which is fine, activate the reload, and activate the magazine. Then what we also want to do is own timer is equal to 5. Alright, and next line here, if timer is equal to 5, and this time we want to check for both of these. So and reload, reload actuator dot positive. And then also over here, you'll notice we have reload and magazine. Now what we don't have is a magazine actuator. So actually, let's go ahead, move this out. And now what we want to do is go over to our magazine. So if we select our weapon here, choose the magazine, and in here, let's go and add an actuator. Then in here, let's call this mag act for magazine actuator, and choose that. Make it inverted as well, and join it in. And let's import it in up the top here. So magazine, actuator is equal to CONT.sensors, magazine actuator. So down here, check that time is equal to 5, reload actuator.positive, and magazine actuator.positive. Now also what we have to do is, when the reload finishes, we want to give him ammo again. So own ammo is equal to whatever number we had originally. So I think it was 10. Yep, so whatever ammo count you have here, just re-add it in here. So then what we want to do is also own timer is equal to 0. And before we do that, let's press, or select it all, Control X, and put it underneath. Alright, and there we go. So actually, instead of 0, let's go ahead and set it to 1. So that basically means we'll skip straight up here and play the idle animation again. Let's go over here, move this up, and let's go to our random actuator, this one here. And let's turn down the frequency maybe to about 4 or 3, so the shooting happens very often. Now also one more thing we want to do is check for the aiming actuator, which we haven't done down here. So also, and aim actuator dot positive. There we go. I think we've got them working. Now what we can do is move on to adding other cool things like the muzzle flare. So let's go ahead, move this up and minimize it. Then let's go over here to layer 2 and press Shift A, edit plane. So let's go ahead and call our plane muzzle flare. And then let's go over here, add new material, scroll down, no specular, shadeless probably, and transparency to nothing. Let me just move it up here. Then we'll go to the texture panel, select the plus, image or movie, UV and alpha down here. And so then I'm going to click open and open up a muzzle flare texture. Alright, so if you've been watching Project FPS, you know where all of these images come from. I'll leave a link down to the muzzle flare package if you want to go ahead and get them. But again, that's up to you. You can also make your own. So what I'm going to do is select one from here, probably this one. And I'm going to open it up. Then what I'm going to do is move this down, press tab, U and unwrap. And then what we also want to do is actually deselect that, go over here and change it to add. There we go, and you can just turn off transparency. Basically what that will do is take away all the black and only have the white values. Cool, so now what we want to do is make sure that that is always facing the player. So let's go to billboard, press P. So let's press tab, RY90, enter, and tab to go back into object mode. What we can do is go over here, change it to no collision, and then what we want to do is press M and move it to layer 1. Now we'll go over here, and we want to add it to our enemy's weapon. So move it over here, like so, then press RZ -90, so it's facing the player, and let's global and move it in, S to scale, and so now press numpad 3 and we'll just move it up in front of his weapon. Alright, so this method will just be turning the visibility of this on and off. If you want to, you can use the same method as Project FPS and spawn it in. So what I'm going to do is, again, just move it across till it's over the weapon. And here we can zoom in, and something like that should be good. Now let's go ahead and select our rig here. Go over to the gun bone here. Then select our gun bone here, and go back into object mode. Select the muzzle flare, hold down shift, select the rig, and press Ctrl P and parent to bone. So now if we select an animation, so select the rig, go to the dope sheet, and play an animation. There you go, you'll notice the muzzle flare moves with it. So now what we want to do is when this receives a pulse of some kind, it quickly switches on and off. So I'm going to select a muzzle flare, hold down shift, and select the enemy AI. Now on our muzzle flare here, we'll add 2 visibility sensors, or actuators. This one will be invisible, and that one will be visible. So what we also want to do is add an and in here, let's make that a tap, join it in, and then what we want to do is join that in with the visibility. So Control and up arrow, join that in with the visible, add a NAND controller, or not AND, join that in, and then put that in the not visible. So make sure that's joined in. Alright, cool. So this here joined to an AND and a NAND, which are joined to visible and invisible. Cool, and there you go. You notice that he's shooting. However, he's constantly shooting even when he isn't facing the player. So let's also add a property here to make sure that timer is equal to 3. So when he's meant to be shooting. So let's go ahead, add that in here as well. Now what we also want to do is do the same here, but we want this not to be going. So let's go ahead, add a random, make it the same seed, so 150 on a true pulse and tap, and then invert it as well. Join that in with this and make it an AND. Then instead of this one, we want properties equal to 3. Now what we're going to do is also set up the seed to be roughly 3 or 4. What you might want to do is maybe turn that up to you. These two will have to be the same though. Cool, so there you go. You can see that he's shooting at the correct times. Now one more thing we will fix is you'll notice his running animation is a little bit stuttery. So let's go ahead and add some clipping to it, the run animation. So let's make it start frame 1. So now one more thing we also want to do on our third state is if our player decides to move around the side of the enemy, then we need all the animations and everything to reset. So what we want to do is when the ray is positive, like so, then we want to also go ahead, add a property, and we want to assign timer to 0. Now also what we want to do is deactivate any animation that's being played. So the easiest way to do this is again through the Python script. So what we can do is just join this in here and join it to the Python controller, enemy shoot. Alright, and so actually we won't need this. And let's join the state into the Python as well. Alright, get rid of that. And so now what we'll do is move this down, enemy shoot, move it across, scroll down to the very bottom and press enter, go to the first line. And so now you'll notice we have one giant if statement, so only one of these will evaluate as true every time. However, this end piece here will basically check if we need to change state. So to do that, we can select our AI here and check the status, as that should hopefully be set to 0. If enemy, own enemy status is equal to 0, then what we want to do is own timer is equal to 0. Now one more thing we will also have to do is up the top here, check that and own enemy status is equal to 1. So this will just make sure that it's not equal to 0. So I guess we can pretty much, instead of 1, let's just make it greater than 0. So it can be pretty much anything that isn't 0. If it is equal to 0, then what we want to do is deactivate everything. Select this, Control C to copy. Next line, paste that in. Then we'll want to deactivate get up, just in case it is in that state. Deactivate that. Now one more thing we want to do is activate the state. So let's go ahead, go up the top here, and I guess just set states 1, and then state 1 is equal to cont.actuators state, and it's called state 3, as you can see here. So let's put state 3 in here, and scroll down all the way to the bottom, cont.activate state 1. Now also what we want to do is if our player has to move cover, perhaps while the muzzle flare is still on, what we want to do is go ahead and make it invisible. So let's also go over here and add a NAND controller, join in just property 3, and then join it up to make it invisible. Cool, so I think that should be about it. I think we managed to get rid of quite a few bugs and cover quite a bit of material. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, let me know with a like, comment, or share down below. Hopefully you guys are still enjoying the series. I don't think there should be too much left. I think all we really have to do is maybe get some maneuvering going and getting damage dealt to the player. So yeah, apart from that, I think we're pretty close to getting finished. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the tutorial, have an awesome week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.